You know, back in the 60s when I was a kid, the avatar for racism and segregation and just all the nastiness of racism was this guy, Alabama Governor George Wallace. You know, the thing a lot of people don't know about George Wallace is when he first started out, and George Wallace was a lawyer and became a judge, and when he tried to run, and he was known as, when he was a judge, he was actually known as a moderate, as a fairly fair-minded guy when it came to treating all people, equally. And this is in the 1950s in Alabama, so you have to kind of do it against that kind of backdrop. So Wallace in 1958 tried to run for governor of Alabama against a guy by the name of John Patterson. Patterson was known as just an just horrible racist and segregationist, and he beat Wallace in that race. And the night of the election, when Wallace got beaten, he told one of his confidants, because this guy Patterson ran a very racist campaign, very arch racist and conservative and just nasty guy. When Wallace got beaten, Wallace said to one of his confidants, he said, "I'm never going to be out-niggered again." That's the quote. "I'm never going to be out-niggered again." And Wallace eventually did win to be governor of Alabama. And in 1963, when he was doing his doing his inaugural address there in Montgomery, in the state capital, Wallace proclaimed, "Segregation now, segregation forever." And he did everything possible to live up to that. And he was just really known as this kind of arch racist dude who was always doing stuff. I mean, one of his most famous things is when he stood in the schoolhouse door of the University of Alabama to prevent black students from going to school there at the state public university. I mean, so again, Wallace, I mean, he was just like, there's never, in our minds in the 1960s and early 70s, if you said segregationist, if you're a black person, if you're segregationist, you're talking about George Wallace. Well, dear George, you have been out-niggered. You've been out-niggered by Florida's present governor, Ron DeSantis. And Ron DeSantis, and it's interesting because there are a lot of similarities between DeSantis and Wallace, because DeSantis is a lawyer, as was George Wallace. DeSantis he was in Congress before he ran for governor of Florida. He was a backbencher. He was not distinguished in any way. But when DeSantis ran for governor of Florida, he ran a very racist campaign with a lot of racial code words in it and stuff like that. And that's how he got elected. And soon after getting elected, he showed his undemocratic tendencies by, among other things, he did everything in his power, working with collaborators in the legislature, to basically undermine a state amendment that had been passed by a majority of Floridians to allow people who were former felons to regain their right to vote. They threw all kinds of roadblocks in there to make that something that wouldn't pass. And one of the things that was always kind of a lot of people saw that as a way of helping more black people to vote. But I've been told by people there are actually more white people who have felony convictions, who also interfered with their right to be able to vote. And so that was one of the first things that DeSantis has done. But since then, he's kind of racked up a pretty amazing list. And I just have to look at this list to remind myself of all the stuff that he's done. That he has raised a tremendous campaign especially in the last year or two, to really push white supremacy by whitewashing black history in Florida's public schools. I mean, they've done everything that they can do to kind of make it seem like, black people don't really have it that bad. Slavery wasn't all that bad, and black people just need to stop complaining. And in fact, black people should be appreciative of white people. That's the way white supremacy works. DeSantis has gutted and dumbed down Florida's public school system. I mean, they put such rules in there about what teachers can and can't teach and how teachers can be punished for saying the wrong thing. The teachers are just quitting Florida public schools in droves to get away from it. But not satisfied with that, then he's gone on to ruin Florida's state public university system. You know, Florida's public university system until now has been one of the best. I've always told people, you know, if your kid gets a full ride scholarship to go to Harvard or Yale, go for it. But if not, Florida's public school system, public university system, is really one of the best in the country. My daughter went to Florida State University, and she can compete with really anybody out there. You bring in your Ivy Leagues and stuff like that, head to head, my daughter can go head to head with them any day or night. DeSantis has declared war, not just war, persecuting LGBTQ people. And I've told people from the outset, when you see them attacking them, understand that they are being used as a punching bag and a test ground for the types of rules that you want to eventually apply against black people. And I've been proven correct. He's declared war on women, just, you know, with stuff with women's rights and ability to control their own body and stuff like that. He is just really unbelievable. He has refused hundreds of millions of dollars in federal funds that the federal government's trying to give to us. That DeSantis goes, we don't want that, to send that back. You know, that has hurt people in getting subsidies to fix their air conditioning, upgrade their air conditioning, medical coverage, just everything. He's turned that money back to the federal government. Who does that? I mean, it makes no sense. He's attacked science. He's attacked medicine. Remember the stuff he did with COVID and stuff like that to try and take the rules off before it was really smart to take those rules off. They laugh at climate change. I mean, this past summer, you're laughing at climate change when the water in the ocean is the temperature of bath water and you don't think the climate change is something like, come on. I mean, this is like stuff from like the dark ages when they were attacking scientists. It's just unbelievable. You know, then he's proven himself to be a dictator by removing from office people who were elected. Our state attorney here in Orange and Osceola County was removed from office, as was another state attorney down in South Florida. You know, so if you don't agree with him, he'll remove you from office. That's what dictators do, okay? Then DeSantis has actually gotten the state to give him money to create his own private army. You know, this private army is known as the Florida State Guard, not to be confused with Florida National Guard. The Florida State Guard reports directly to DeSantis. They've been given military equipment. They've been given counterintelligence equipment that they can use to break into cell phone calls and stuff like that. Why are they doing that? What is the real purpose of that Florida State Guard? We've yet to see that, but I can guarantee you this: it ain't going to be good when you find out what it's all about. You know, DeSantis consistently appoints to office people who are racist and or corrupt, or any combination of those. People who he can count on to do his bidding and to hurt the average people of Florida. What DeSantis has also done is he has really helped the rest of the world understand that Florida is in the South. I'm originally from New York City. And for some reason, you can look at a map and see that Florida is obviously south of New York, but people don't really tend to consider Florida to be in the South. What DeSantis has helped to show people is Florida's not just in the South, it's part of the deep South. And to help people understand the deep, racist, dangerous history of Florida. That's what Ron DeSantis has done. And yeah, people going on about, well, there's no way he's going to get elected president. Ron DeSantis is 44 years old. If he doesn't get elected president this time, do you think he's not going to be back? Ron DeSantis, somebody needs to drive a stake through his political heart. He is far more dangerous than Trump. He's dangerous, he's crazy, he is a guy who the principle that he's built his political platform is on cruelty. The guy is dangerous.